Hey, good evening. Welcome to the pre-show for tonight. I was going to pull an Amber Heard when we started and do one of these. Oh, good evening, folks. I was going to drop a turd in my bed. No, in somebody's bed. What? I did not poop in the bed last night.
Yes, you did. I saw it.
I see. You're in on it with her. All right. I got to start the thing. There, the thing is started. The thing is echoing. I got to take my sound down. How's everybody tonight? Sometimes I feel like a butt, says Rainey. Sometimes I don't. All right, we got 2 minutes left. No, 3 minutes left before we go live on air. No, that's what Joe Biden does, says Leslie Hoker. Mm-hmm. Stop moving so much.
Are you taking the garbage can back?
Yeah, do you still need it?
Yeah, I still
My garbage
I
can.
still got 60 more shirts to do.
Garbage can. Rainey's doing shirts for a client. Those of you in the area, the Apple River River's Edge. We got a big Uncle Dave says hi, Ellery. So she got 103 shirts to do for them, which is a nice order for 2 loons. So she's working on that still. Got 2 minutes left. 2 minutes and counting. Rainey is going to... It's sticking out of my head. Just looked in the monitor. Oh, it's just hair. Weird hair. So Rainey's going to camp with Ellery this weekend. Scout camp. And so it's just me and Flynn and Rowan home alone. Party at the Roberts house. Mom's gone. So while the cat's away, the mice will play. So very nice order. Does this group tube down the... Yes, it's tubing down the Apple River, Leslie. That's my friend Steve, who's been a client of mine really for 30 years since he owned a consignment used toy store. And then he and his brothers bought the Cedar Lake Speedway over here between Somerset and New Richmond. I'm sure you've heard of that. The dirt NASCAR track up here. And then Steve bought the River's Edge a few years ago and been expanding that. So he's been a client of mine for many years and also a friend. So if you wonder why I'm wearing a sweater, it's hot and humid outside, but it is freezing in here. We adjust the air conditioning, so it's not too, but then it gets hot upstairs and it stays freezing down here. So it's always cold down here. My fingers freeze. Hey, Elderberry. Hope everybody's doing well. We're going to go dark now. Stand by.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAlanRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, AlanRoberts.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.
Hey, good evening, folks. Happy Wednesday evening. This is your host, Scotty Roberts, right here on the Intrepid radio program, just like every other day. And you can tune us in audio format over on the radio station. That's Odyssey Radio, ODYSY radio.com. And go out and check out Odyssey Radio and everything that's going on over there. And you can also view this program in its video simulcast in two ways. One is over on Facebook at facebook.com/Odyssey Radio, spelled the same way. And the other is at my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Scotty Roberts, where you can give a thumbs up to this program. You can give it a thumbs down if you don't like it, but I don't think that will be a problem. So Fat Tony should be very happy should you not give thumbs down. So a thumbs up, you can subscribe to my channel. And at the same time, I'm on live radio, child. Thank you for your input. It's a monster of my own making. I've only done that for several years. My kids come and interrupt, but there you go. So you can hit the subscribe button, and you can also hit the little join button down here somewhere, and find 3 ways to join the channel. And that's all I got for you at the moment, other than moving into stuff. I got to tell you, I had a conversation with somebody today, and this is just to not jump right into topic, which I could do, but I want to, again, I don't do politics on this show, but I do current events, and many of our current events are wrapped around political things that are going on. And there was somebody that was talking about, a friend of mine, somebody I've known for a while, who was talking about the whole gun control issue. And I'm not going to name her. She's a nice person. I like her. Rainey and I have known her for a while. But she brought up something about guns. And while I'm talking, I'm kind of scrolling for this post. Oh, okay. She had a one of those colorful, she typed something out and put a colorful background on it on Facebook. And she said the bullet was invented in 1847. Second Amendment is from 1789. So the Second Amendment only applies to muskets. Okay, that was her reasoning. Now, I think there's a little tongue-in-cheek there. I think she knows better. But she was doing her thing. And a good friend of mine responded to her and said, everything in this is wrong. Now, by the way, this good friend of mine, highly respected. Everybody likes him. He always has this way of confronting somebody and being kind about it and good. And they know he's a good person. And so he said to her, everything in this is wrong. Number one, he says, bullets or projectiles have been around since gunpowder was invented. So roughly 1,200 years ago. 2, the Second Amendment was ratified in 1791 and detailed out in the Militia Act of 1793. So 3, the Second Amendment refers to a whole lot more than guns. And he's absolutely right on all of that. And she responded to them, well, I have two of them. I don't like them. And I said, I have one myself. And so this conversation went on. I said to my friend, not being damning of her in any way, but I said the internet was invented for widespread public use in the late 1990s. So the First Amendment doesn't apply to it or other electronic modes of communication invented after 1776, right? And I said, I think we miss the principle of the amendments when we try to define them away. And then there was a slew of 24 posts and comments between her and I. And of course, in these situations, as you always see, a friend has to come in and the friend has to, well, I got to add my 2 cents in on this. So, but that's okay because I did the same thing. And I only responded to her because I know her and we've been friends. Not, we're not like buddy, go get a lakeshore cottage, but together for a weekend. But I know her and she's a friend. So this conversation went on, and I want you to notice the kind of thinking. Now, once again, everybody leaves the door open, and the dog barks in the background. So if you hear the dog, it's only because I'm not in a professional studio tucked away somewhere behind soundproof walls and glass. This is a studio in my home, and so now and then you're going to see child interruptions and the dog. A Bit with a Dog. Name that movie. What movie did that line come from? Is there a bit with a dog? So if you can name that a gold star to you. Fantastic movie, by the way. So this conversation goes on and carries on for quite a while. My friend said, in response to the First Amendment thing, she says, if taking the internet away means your kids don't get shot at school, I'm cool with that. So once again, she's sidestepping the major point and going to the immediate point of what was said. I didn't say the internet was the only, the internet and many other things, modes of communication didn't exist. Modes of communicating our messages didn't exist in the same way. And I said, so when the First Amendment was written, so, it doesn't invalidate those. Why should it invalidate bullets or projectiles? And I said, I'm not good with any government taking away anyone's rights. When we step away from the deeply emotional side of this and look at the numbers, school shooters or shootings or shooters represent less than 0.00041% of the American populace, while well over 99% of gun owners are law-abiding citizens who would never commit a heinous crime against children. I know it's a tough statistic in the argument, but depriving the law-abiding of their rights is a very bad thing to promote. I'm not even a member of the NRA, I said. And she said, I wish people were this passionate about the rights of women, LGBTQ+, and POCs, people of color. Also, I own several guns and I'm permitted to carry. But for some reason, America is the only country that normalizes kids being in more danger at school than cops are at work. Well, that's because cops can carry guns at work. Kids aren't allowed to carry guns to school. Nor do I think they should, but we should have more protections. That's a different thing. We have a problem here, she says. I absolutely refuse to step away from the emotional side. And frankly, that's the most disgusting way I've heard this put into words. So taking me to task on saying, sometimes you have to set aside the overt emotions of a thing to look at it logically. Because my point being, when legislation is created, they cannot create legislation out of pure emotional knee-jerk. You have to have legislation that is thought through carefully. That takes a logical approach on top of the emotional approach. So she goes on. She said that was a disgusting way to put it. I said, sometimes we can let our emotions dictate in things that require solid, cool-headed thinking. That's all I promote. Good law requires both. I'm not sure we've normalized, quote unquote, kids being killed, but there certainly is a problem with people who will commit heinous, tragic acts against children in zones where guns aren't permitted at all. It's a harsh reality. Outlawing guns and ammunition will simply lead a psychotic to find other means or utilize illegal means to accomplish their ends. Then she responded, except your theory is wrong. Look at Australia. Everybody goes to Australia. An AR in the black market there is $34,000. How many 18-year-old kids do you know that can afford that? Because I know 0. Well, point being, if a kid wants an AR rifle of any kind to do an illegal act, they generally aren't going to purchase it. Australia is a different case, but Australia, I didn't want to get into Australian politics, but just look at how Australian government treated people during COVID. And you get an idea what happens when the government is not afraid of its citizenry standing up against it. So, moving on. Oh, what am I seeing here in the chat room? Yes, it is. I see Leslie yelling in capital words. I must have missed something earlier on. Morgan Snow. After guns, what else is next? Well, that's it. And so this little back and forth between my friend and I went on. I said, I say this rather facetiously, but we could start with banning all the weapons used by the and mostly because I knew where she stood politically, which is all for this conspiracy stuff of January 6th. And I said, I say this rather facetiously. We could start with banning all the weapons used by the comparatively small number of rioters in the January 6th protest at the Capitol, which, of course, is 0. And my friend said, no one said ban all the weapons. People are saying common sense laws are needed. No one wants to get emotional, but somehow we've decided anger isn't an emotion anymore. And I said, anger that guides legislation needs to be tempered. What new laws would improve what we already have? I asked her. And she said waiting periods, mental health screening, certification for ownership with recertification requirements similar to that of your license to drive, raise the age limit to buy. How strange that you can buy a weapon designed to kill a lot of things quickly before you can buy a cigarette. No private gun sales. Law-abiding citizens should have no problem with any of this. And then she said, anyway, I'm going to bed. And I pretty much said, I think I said it in a later post. I said, we already have pretty much all of that now. We have pretty strict gun legislation in place. And here, I'll get to this in a second. Then she had a friend pop in after she said, anyway, I'm going to bed. And her friend came in and she says, I'm in, tag. I love this. You're going to take my guns, she types phonetically in a hillbilly accent. That idea is always thrown around when anyone talks about gun rights in America. Nobody's going to take your guns, Scotty. I like shooting guns. I have no problem with guns. An automatic weapon is not a gun. There is absolutely no reason a private citizen needs to have one. I don't care how big your nether regions are. I don't care if you're mad at me about it. You're not hunting with it. If you're not concealing carrying it, you don't need it. I'm not being emotional about it. You are. You want an automatic weapon? Create gun ranges big enough to house them. Shoot them there. You want to buy a gun? A background check with a waiting period, mental health screening, basic skills test to show you're capable of being adult enough to have one is an acceptable request, like driving a vehicle. The ego, narcissism, megamaniacal inability to understand that you don't deserve to have something just because you want it, absolute temper tantrums being done by white men in America bothers me zero. Be upset. Keep your guns. Be proud of a gun safe. You don't need an automatic weapon, period. Be mad. So on and so forth. And of course, there's a lot of problems that could be pulled apart from what she said, but I was working very hard to stay within the conversation of what she was saying. However, I said to her to try to diffuse that again a little bit. I said, I'm looking back on my posts. Did I say I was afraid if somebody was trying to take my guns or take my guns? I typed in that phonetic that she used. Weird, because I don't even speak with a faux hillbilly accent you have ascribed to me. And I said, and by the way, all those things are already law, except the age thing. Not sure what you believe my penis has to do with any of this, because she mentioned my nether regions. I said, I suggest you check fixated, judgmental you at the door and find out a little more about who and what I am before you vomit epithets and generalizations. And I said, and then she went back and said, I specifically stated thrown around in America idea as in I was speaking about a broader audience that always appears about people are murdered with semi-automatic weapons. And then she said, once again, my sentence is speaking to the broader picture, Scotty. Also, you don't need a penis to be a man. There's that now. That's a different issue, but you know what? You need to be, we won't even get into it because there's variables there too. Men have had their junk blown off in war. They're still men. If that's what she's getting at, I rather doubt. I think she's probably getting at transgender stuff. So she goes on, outlawing guns and ammunition will simply lead the psychotic to find other means or utilize illegal means to accomplish their ends. She's quoting me with that sentence. And she said, perfect example of the do-nothing mentality that is currently happening in America. Oh, they will find a way, so let's do nothing. Or maybe they don't, or maybe they have a gun or a knife. I'll take someone coming at my kid with a 45 over an AK any day. I've shot both, and they're not the same. Do nothing is not an answer, and is not an answer, and they'll just find a way as a cop-out. That was her response to me. I said, I agree wholeheartedly with this last statement. Do nothing is not an answer, and they'll just find another way as a cop-out. I agree with her. And I said, I can wholly agree with your last sentence as well. I said, doing nothing accomplishes, well, nothing. Doing the right thing the right way is what takes deliberative process. And I said, outlawing guns and ammunition will simply lead the psychotic to, I quoted myself there again. And I said, this is most certainly not an example of a do-nothing mentality. It's an independent statement in a discussion about finding the right answer to a problem. I'm not sure why you believe this statement to be anyone's conclusion on the matter. And she continued and said, AKs/ARs are not just guns. They are weapons capable of slaughtering as many people as possible in the shortest amount of time as possible, to the point where they need to use DNA testing on some people because they can't use the body or face as an identifying factor. America's right to bear arms, inflated sense of ego, narcissist way of thinking does not mean that it is right. Like I already stated earlier, be mad. No one needs an automatic weapon. There are 50,000 other types of weapons to hunt, shoot, protect yourself and your family, kill zombies, and haul around on your hip. Once again, you being America. Now, by the way, I like her approach. I don't like what she's saying. I disagree with her, but on most of her points. But I like her approach. I like the fact that she'd bring up zombies. So I get that, where she's coming from. So she goes on here, and she says, no, I responded to her. And I said, America's right to bear arms isn't about ego or narcissism. I personally have no need to own an AK, but an AR-15, an air-light rifle, wouldn't be out of the question. I'm not going to go up there and spill how many weapons I have. So if the intent of the Second Amendment was a means by which the government would be kept in check by a citizenry that has a right to be armed, I would rather fault on the side of the individual's right to own them than the inane hypothesis of private the inane hypothesis of private nuclear weapon ownership, etc., notwithstanding. So you hear those arguments all the time. Well, we'll never, as citizens, be able to own the same kind of weapons that the military has. And I said, does that solve the problem of bad guys using them to commit heinous crimes and mass murder? Nope. But I do understand this one caveat. Even Thomas Jefferson said, liberty too must be limited in order to be possessed. When it comes to personal arms, we need to not attempt to boil it down to the least common denominator, because the amendment was meant for far more than squirrel hunting and personal protection. It was meant as a last-ditch defense, and I put last-ditch in parentheses, or quotes, against a tyrannical government. Read the Federalist Papers. Not only are atrocities committed by individuals with excessive firepower, but so can militaries commit even greater atrocities. The government needs to remain unafraid of its citizenry. Let me state that again for you guys. The government needs to remain afraid of its citizenry. I believe this. Yeah, those are just concepts and principles, as opposed to finding ways to keep unstable psychotics from killing little children in schools, but they are completely valid and need to remain a part of the discussion when finding the right solutions. Then my original friend came back in later and said, throw the whole Constitution away. It's outdated garbage. Shut up, Rainey. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what I'm talking about either. She said, don't tell me. So, did you catch that? This person said, my friend said, throw the whole Constitution away. It's outdated garbage. And I responded, surely you jest. And she responded to me, the only people that benefit from the Constitution are white Christian property-owning males. It's embarrassing. I'm not sure why people choose to use the Constitution as an argument when it doesn't serve the majority of Americans. I'm going to let that one sink in for you for a minute. Did you catch that? This is a grown woman who has lived in the United States since birth. She's an American citizen. She lives by benefit of the Constitution and its guarantee of personal rights, yet that is her point of view. I said to my friend, I said, I would disagree with you vehemently on this point. Could you give me a quick, bullet-pointed short list to substantiate your claim that the Constitution exists only for the benefit of white Christian property-owning males? I said, it doesn't have to be an essay or anything, just a short bullet list. And her response to me was, no, LOL, we can just disagree. That's fine. But neither one of us is going to change each other's minds, so we can just skip that part. So she didn't want to go there. She didn't want to discuss it. She didn't want to be held accountable to reveal her basis for saying that about our country's Constitution. And I said as a last post, and we haven't talked about this since, this was like 9 hours ago. I said to my friend by name, I said, I'm not going to try to change your mind. I'm just curious as to what you believe about the Constitution, since your life as a citizen is benefited by it. I've been a constitutional scholar academic for 40 years, and I'm only curious as to what predicates your claim and personally held belief. I'll be all ears. And that's the last we spoke. That was like 9 hours ago. And so you're getting the reason I thought this important to read. Hang on a second. Hang on. Oh, that didn't help. Hang on. Get off of there. The cat is messing with my wife's computer. And just turned on her music over there. So, get down. Get down. There you go. Took me throwing a few things. So anyway, if it's not kids interrupting, it's the cat. So you're going to catch some soundtrack in the background. My wife's music playing back there. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but the cat turned it all on just now. Anyway, Dave Potter. Well, if that's the case, tell her to shut up and get out. I didn't go that far with her. I was trying to be nice and trying to converse nicely, and I didn't go there. But you can certainly believe that was on my mind. My reaction to what she said about the Constitution was pretty much, if you don't like being an American citizen, why don't you go somewhere else? Well, no, she wants to change. I'm going to extrapolate what I believe she would say. No, she wants to be an American citizen. She wants to change the Constitution. And I say, well, you're only an American citizen because of the Constitution. You only enjoy the rights you have. You only enjoy the right to be able to say what you're saying, even in a censored environment like Facebook. You have the right to say what you're saying because the Constitution guarantees you the protection of that right to speak freely. She doesn't get it. So, Leslie's going away in the chat room. Good night, Leslie. She has to say good night. I can't handle stupid so close to bedtime. This woman is blind to reality. And thank you for the link up there, Leslie. I appreciate that. The elite of America hate you and your laws, says Iowa X. And you're right about that. Antoninus says, whoever that woman is, she's a narcissist. Well, I'll tell you this. She's a model. She's gorgeous. Always has been. As long as I've known her, for 12 years probably. She loves animals. She's got a farm and dreadlocks and a fantastically decent husband. So there you go. That's all I'm going to tell you about her. Even when she's hard, she's got no wood, says Antoninus. There it is. So I wanted to share that exchange with you as kind of the first half of tonight's show, because it kind of sets the stage for you and you get the idea of what people are actually thinking out there. We think in my generation and the generation just kind of right after mine that there's hope for America. There's hope for bringing things back out of the dark. And by the way, there's a lot of things that are already starting to see change, flipping back the other direction. We can talk about that another time. But what you've got in a lot of younger people, now, I think she's not super young anymore, this friend of mine. I think she's 40. Thought I saw something on a post about her being, so she's roughly my wife's age. And yet you see some people in the younger generations, this is what they have been indoctrinated into, this kind of thinking. And so is there hope for the future of America? Only if those people in the younger set start learning what their country is all about, start learning what the Constitution is about, start learning civics. So there you go. That happy enough for you for tonight? That's what we're facing out there with people. the people who still support the current administration, the people who support this kind of thinking are out there. So, and the people supporting, we talked about last night, the silly, non-inclusive closed roundtable that is purely one-sided politically, partisan, that's been going on. They have to shut everybody else out. Otherwise, they won't get their message across. Hopefully, we're going to see that change in 5 months. So, there you go. And I'm not preaching for a party. I'm preaching for the party that's currently in power to be taken down a few pegs and have to deal with checks and balances. All right. That's it. That's all I got on that tonight. I wanted to share that with you because I thought it was pertinent and something that was good for all of us to know. And I hope you enjoy this kind of thing. That's a bad way to put it. I don't want you to enjoy the topic as much as you enjoy talking about it, hearing about it, knowing how people think. So there we go. Now, Marcus Aurelius, of course, was he a totalitarian? Yeah, he was a Caesar. He was the emperor of Rome. So I think he was about as totalitarian as it gets. But he wrote these meditations to himself, and they were compiled much later, centuries later, in this book, The Meditations, or to himself. And he's reminding himself of how he has to be. And we've been talking in his third book in this called Carnuntum, which is where he was for a couple, 3 years, stationed with the military fighting wars in Carnuntum. And I left off where he was talking about, he starts it this way. It was number 4 in this, and he said, don't waste the rest of your time here worrying about other people unless it affects the common good. Now, all this stuff I just talked about with this person, I don't worry so much about that person. But like Marcus Aurelius says, he says, don't waste the rest of your time worrying about other people, unless the cat did that, by the way.
There's liquid dumped all over my desk.
Nice. So, cat did that. Thank you very much.
Can you check this at him?
Yeah, I did. You don't have to throw it to me right now. You can if you want. Just warn me. All right.
I'll wait till you're deep in thought.
Wait till I'm deep in thought, then throw it at me.
Yeah.
Thank you, baby. So, come here, Ellie. Here. She brought my thing back over that I chucked at the cat so she can come in and say hi. Your hair looks like a wig. It is so thick and wild. Look at that hair. Just thick. It's just like her mom's.
Ow.
All right, you can go now. So, Marcus Aurelius, what's he saying here? Don't waste your time on other people unless it affects the common good. I think this type of thinking, in my friend, affects the common good. The good of the Constitution, the good of our country. It's going to keep you from doing anything useful. If you worry about them, you'll be too preoccupied with what so-and-so is doing and why and what they're saying and what they're thinking and what they're up to. And all the other things that throw you off and keep you from focusing on your own mind. So he's talking about, don't worry about gossip and that kind of shit. He says, unless it's affecting the public good. You need to avoid certain things in your train of thought. Everything random, everything irrelevant. Get rid of those things. And certainly everything self-important or malicious. You need to get used to winnowing your thoughts so that if someone says, what are you thinking about? How do we always respond to that? Oh, nothing. Oh, sex. Oh, this, oh, that. So what are you thinking about? That you can respond at once and truthfully that you're thinking this or thinking that. It's a philosophy of being sharp in what your mind is doing. And it would be obvious at once from your answer that your thoughts were straightforward and considerate ones, the thoughts of an unselfish person, one unconcerned with what he keeps calling pleasure. He's talking about pleasuring of self, of seeking things that are only for self, your own material well-being and stuff, and excluding everyone else around you. So you'd be one who's unconcerned with pleasure and with sensual indulgence generally, with squabbling, with slander and envy, or anything else you'd be ashamed to be caught thinking. So don't think about the things you'd be ashamed to be caught thinking, he's saying. These are all very biblical concepts as well. Once again, like Niall had said the other night, he thought he asked the question and was insisting that he felt Marcus Aurelius drew a lot of his material from other sources, the New Testament being one of them. And he's absolutely right. I think Uncle Dave mentioned the New Testament. Niall said other sources. And so I think he's right, because all of the New Testament was pretty much written 100 years before the time of Marcus Aurelius. So he goes on. He says, someone like that who is would be ashamed to be caught with everybody knowing what they're thinking, someone who refuses to put off joining the elect is a kind of priest, he says, a servant of the gods, in touch with what is within him and what keeps a person undefiled by pleasures, invulnerable to any pain, untouched by arrogance, unaffected by meanness, an athlete in the greatest of all contests. The struggle not to be overwhelmed by anything that happens, with what leaves us dyed indelibly by justice, welcoming wholeheartedly whatever comes, whatever we're assigned, not worrying too often or with any selfish motive about what other people say or do or think. He does only what's on his to-do list and what is his to do, and considers constantly what the world has in store for him, doing his best, trusting that all is for the best. For we carry our fate within us, and it carries us. This person keeps in mind that all rational things are related, and that to care for all human beings is part of being human, which doesn't mean we have to share their opinions. We should listen only to those whose lives conform to nature, and the others, he bears in mind what sort of people they are, both at home and abroad, by night as well as by day, and who they spend their time with. And he cares nothing for their praise, men who can't even meet their own standards. He's saying avoid that. Keep your thoughts pure. Keep your intentions pure. Keep your motivations pure. He's telling himself. Avoid the people who can't even meet up to their own standards and live by them. So I think Marcus Aurelius was spot on when he said, don't waste your time worrying about people unless it affects the common good. Now he goes on in this book, the fifth part. He says, how to act. Never under compulsion or out of selfishness, without forethought, without misgivings. So he says, how do you act? Number one, never under compulsion, never out of selfishness, never without forethought, or with misgivings. He says, don't gussy up your thoughts. No surplus words or unnecessary actions. Let the spirit in you represent a man, an adult, a citizen, a Roman, a ruler. Take up his post like a soldier, and patiently awaiting his recall from life, needing no oath or witness. Cheerfulness is how you should act, without requiring other people's help or serenity supplied by others. Don't rely on other people to make your happiness. You make your own, he's saying here. Where have we heard that before? Everywhere. Make your own happiness. That's one thing we can do for ourselves. Doesn't matter our circumstances. Then he says, finally, how do you act? Stand up straight, not straightened. How about that? How's that for simplicity? Stand up straight, not straightened. Don't let anybody else straighten you out. You stand up straight, he says. See why these meditations have lasted 2 millennia? Because he's pretty spot on. Number 6 in this book, he says, if at some point in your life you should come across anything better than justice, honesty, self-control, courage, then a mind satisfied that it has succeeded, enabling you to act rationally, and satisfied to accept what's beyond its control, if you find anything better than that, embrace it without reservations. It has to be, must be, an extraordinary thing indeed, and enjoy it to the fullest. But if nothing presents itself that's superior to the spirit that lives within you, the one that has subordinated individual desires to itself, that discriminates among impressions, that is broken free of physical temptations, as Socrates used to say, and subordinate itself to the gods and looks out for human beings' welfare, if you find that there's nothing more important or valuable than that, then don't make room for anything but it. For anything that might lead you astray, tempt you off the road, and leave you unable to devote yourself completely to achieving the goodness that is uniquely yours. It would be wrong for anything to stand between you and attaining goodness. As a rational being and a citizen, anything at all, the applause of the crowd, high office, wealth, self-indulgent, all of them might seem compatible with it for a while, but suddenly they control us and sweep us away. So make your choices straightforwardly, once and for all. Stick to it. Choose what's best. Best is what defines me, he says. As a rational being, then follow through. Or as just an animal, then say so and stand your ground without making a show of it. Just make sure you've done your homework first. So everything he's saying here says, don't make room for any of it. And for anything that might lead you astray or tempt you off the road, leave you unable to devote yourself completely to achieving the goodness that is uniquely yours. It would be wrong for anything to stand between you and attaining goodness. It would be wrong for anything to stand between you and attaining goodness. There is, when we are drawn away by the things that, as the Apostle Paul put it in the New Testament, tempt us, or as Socrates says, leads us astray, those are the things that we let carry us away. What are the things? Name some things in the chat room, guys. All of you listening, name some things for yourself. Hey, David Castle, I think everybody got it. I got to mock you a little bit. I think you've said good evening and good favor to you, to everybody in the chat room. So you got it up there about 20 times. That's okay, but I think we all got your message, brother. So thank you. And by the way, I stopped using the words favor to you because somebody I knew who was a hypocrite was promulgating it. And I bought into it for a while, and I said, there might be a truism there. Even a hypocrite can be true. about some of the words he mimics or puts out there. But at the same time, there's better ways. I've tried to find better ways to say that for me personally, not for you, David. But welcome to the chat room, by the way. I think everybody got your message. Isn't that why Rush Limbaugh, like 30 years ago, started dittos? He says, if you agree with what everybody else just said about me, he says, just say dittos when I pick you up, when I get you on the phone. Dittos, Rush. That's why everybody said that. So dittos, David Castle. Thank you for being here. So this whole thing about what are the things that you would list as the things that so easily take you off track. Is it finances? That's a big one around here. Finances. The world works because of our finances, or it doesn't work because of our lack of finances. We live in a part of the world, in a way in the world where finances have to meet a certain standard. That standard could be poverty by some other people's issues or standards. But your finances have to meet your life, or you're going to have an awfully miserable, rough life. Ours is on that borderline. Sometimes we do good. Sometimes we do really, really sorely. And we're stretching things out, creates stress. So finances is one of them. What gets in the way of you being happy? Can you still be happy if you're behind on all your bills? Can you still be happy if your finances are rough? Yeah, you can be. They're conscious choices we make. It doesn't mean it takes away the stress. It means we find ways to do that. That's just one issue. What else? Work. Going to work. Work takes away my happiness. It gets in the way because I have a job I hate. My job sucks. I don't want to be there. Can't wait till the end of the day when I can punch out. And some of that is financial too. Some people are working jobs they wouldn't mind so much if they weren't paid so little. There's that. And yes, I am all the time, says Uncle Dave. I don't know what you're referring to there, but financially strapped, always dealing with, not strapped, none of us are impoverished. We're impoverished by American standards, but not by third world standards. We've got it pretty good for people in poverty. I love what I do too, Uncle Dave. That's the beauty of what Uncle Dave and I do. We both love our jobs. It would be nice if we could relax a little bit, So what else gets in the way? Does your relationship get in the way? Bad relationship. What's at the core of your bad relationships? Or the problems in your relationships? Let's put it that way. What would make you happier? What are the things that you look to? And when you don't get those things, they make you really unhappy. There are things I would love to have and love to do. They aren't all material things, but when I don't get them, I get really disgruntled after a while. Say, is that it? Is this the rest of my life? There it is. Not a kid anymore. So what do you do with that? Hey, Professor Bauer, welcome to the chat room. Suboptimal functioning carbon-based units polluting and staining the social fabric. Boom, there it is. Say that fast 3 times. Put that on a shirt. Suboptimal functioning carbon-based units polluting and staining the social fabric. Boom. We need a single word for that, Professor. And then that is the definition below. So, literally, says Sean Stroik. Iowa X says, Emperor sounds good to me. From the job description, someone pisses you off, feed him to the lions. Buy all the best slave girls. Well, there it is. Hey, look at this. We got 2 minutes left of this show. What do you know about that? So, have I even made it through the end of this particular, let's see, 9? We have not. There's still several points in this particular book, and we'll get to them. We were on number 8. I think he goes all the way up to 16. So we're halfway through this particular book in the Meditations, And then we go into more books that cover other things that he keeps going on. So I'm just going to take a quick peek at book 4, which is 2 books ahead of us. Our inward power, when it obeys nature, reacts to events by accumulating or accommodating itself to what it faces, to what is possible. It needs no specific material. It pursues its own aims as circumstances allow. It turns obstacles into fuel. As a fire overwhelms what would have quenched a lamp, that's what's thrown up on top of the conflagration is absorbed, consumed by it, and makes it burn still higher. That's what we're in for as we keep going down the road here. Good stuff. Excellent stuff from Marcus Aurelius. All right, we got about 35 seconds, and we're out of here. I want to say go visit my website, scottallenroberts.com. You can see all the stuff I do. Go visit 2 Loons with the numeral 2 Loons tumblers. Well, it's right there on the screen, right up there in the corner. And you can also go visit my book site, theswordintheclay.com. So for now, folks, stick around for the Captain's Cabin. Live long and prosper.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.
Well, welcome to the Captain's Cabin, the little afterglow. You know, people like to call it the Captain's Cabin. I call it afterglow. So, the little afterword, the footnote at the end of the show. We're now off air over on Odyssey Radio, and we are just here in the chat room on the YouTube channel. So I want to thank you all for being here. And hey, Susie Q, good to see you. Hey, Morgan Snow, nice to see you as well. Professor Bauer is here. Professor Bauer, you ought to haul your butt over here into the chat room, and let's or into the studio. And here I'll throw the link up for you. And you should come on over here. We'll spend a few minutes talking tonight anyway. There it is. There it is. There it is. Unless there's a delay on that before you see it. You should see it in the chat room. So I'm not sure Uncle Dave is available or not. I see him talking. You must be back to where you're going to be. If you want to call in, Uncle Dave, you can do that as well. Anybody can call in right now. As a matter of fact, there's that link. Just be prepared to come up on screen and talk about something substantive and worthwhile. Michelle Cannon Free, you should come in. Say something. Oh, there's Uncle Dave. Add him to the stream. Uncle Dave, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing tonight?
I'm just fine and dandy. Not a dandy, just fine and dandy.
What's wrong with being a dandy? It's Pride Week.
It's a dandy. You have to love a man who knows how to tie a proper cravat.
Yes.
Yes.
Scarlet Pimpernel, my favorite dandy.
Yes. That was from the Scarlet Pimpernel.
Yes.
I quoted his poem one night on the show. The Scarlet Pimpernel. Leslie Howard was the best. Although I'd like to see that. If you could remake a movie like The Scarlet Pimpernel, who would you cast? Uncle Dave? Oh, you're breaking up. If you're answering that question, we're not hearing it. We're hearing ding.
Really? You can't hear me?
Now I can hear you. Try that again.
Oh, I said Scarlet. I said what? You got me?
Scarlet Pimpernel.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Oh,
I said Orlando Bloom. Orlando Bloom.
Bloom is the Scarlet Pimpernel? Or who?
Yeah, because he could pull off the sword work and he could pull off being a dandy. He would
Okay,
be a
that's
believable Scarlet
who else?
Pimpernel.
Who else did you say other than Orlando Bloom?
Nobody.
Oh, only Orlando Bloom. Yeah. He could do it.
And for those of you who don't know who Orlando Bloom is, he's a slightly more feminine version of Keira Knightley.
Of Keira Knightley, huh?
Yeah. And she's
That's
a slightly
good
more
stuff.
masculine version of Orlando Bloom.
There you go. Now you know who Orlando Bloom is, folks. He was
The
I can't remember his character's name, but he was in Pirates of the Caribbean,
Pirates
and he
of the
was in
Caribbean.
Lord of the Rings
Theodore
as Legolas, the elf.
Oh, Legolas, you're right.
Yep. What was his name in? He was Bootstrap Bill's son, but what was his name? Turner. Turner was his last name.
Turner was his last name, and I'm trying to think what his first name was.
Iowa X is saying Orlando Bloom is too old now. Yeah, how old is he? Is he in his mid-40s? He's got to be pushing 50 by now. When you think Lord of the Rings was 20 years ago.
That's true, but the Scarlet Pimpernel is not a young character.
Scarlet Pimpernel was always somebody I envisioned as being around 40 years old. And he had to still have the dexterity to do the things he did. He was an aristocrat.
I still have the dexterity to do what he did, and I'm 58.
Yeah. And
Small sword work.
What's that?
That period is small sword work, and that's almost all in the wrist.
Right. Well, you can still sword fight. I can still sword fight. I don't have the dexterity to leap and hop and jump, though, like I used
but there's not a lot of that in small sword work.
Small sword, right. So I get that. So
small sword relies on you being having guile and being crafty.
Yes. For small sword?
Yes. You're thinking 4 moves ahead of your opponent. You're trying to position your opponent where you want him when you kill him.
That's like you look at one of the best, not the best, among the best choreographed sword fights for cinema was the duel between Liam Neeson and can't remember his name off the top very quickly. He played the bad guy in Rob Roy.
Yep.
Where you've got Rob Roy manned with a Scottish back sword, like it's like this lower one here, folks, on my wall. He's got the basket hilted Scottish clay, and you've got Tim Ross. Is that his name, Tim Ross? He played the bad guy in that, and he was a master of the short sword. So it's a fantastic duel at the end of that movie.
Short sword is a totally different sword.
Yes.
Short sword is what the sword in the clay is. A gladius.
Oh, that's that's a gladius.
Yeah, but that's
I'm talking about small sword. Did I say short? Small sword.
But small sword is a different sword.
Yeah, you're getting me on saying my terms. Small sword, court sword.
Yeah. Yes,
so,
court sword is a type of small sword. Yes. The evolution of the
There's Professor Bauer. Let's bring him in. How you doing, Professor?
I have brought my sword, gentlemen, and
You brought your sword.
I've brought my sword, and I plan to not go through all of the. Wait a minute, I got a feedback thing going on here, and I wanted to make sure that there was no crossing of swords or the streams this evening.
Do not cross the streams. If you cross your swords, do not cross your streams.
Something I learned
before we move on to other things. I'm just going to say. So I was the other day. Came across a video of lightsaber duels, and they had the duel with Ezra and Darth Vader from Rebels at Ezra looks at him and he goes, "I'm not afraid of you." And Darth Vader goes, "Then you will die braver than most." I just love that exchange.
Awesome.
You will die braver than most.
Braver than most.
So, and they did an excellent, by the way, an excellent remastering of the duel between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi from the original movie.
Oh,
They
yes, that's
just
gorgeous.
tied the whole thing in, but they remastered digitally the fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader behind the scenes. It cuts it into where Luke sees them fighting in the entryway and goes
They
back and
threw
forth.
in force
You're
pushes.
a
and
bastard of
stuff.
evil, Darth. So
That's a
I
very
was-
good.
you were once the master.
Guinness.
What's his? What, Dave? Dave,
That
there
was a
has to be
very
a
good
lag
Guinness.
between us because you're doing you're kind of not hearing us and then talking over us a bit, and we're getting all muddled. What were you saying?
That was a very good Alec Guinness.
Oh, why? Thank you. You're a master of evil, Darth.
You know, I saw the
Never
other day.
was there a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
The other day,
Go
as
ahead,
I was
Professor.
surfing, I found Star Wars, the original one.
Yeah.
And just as a little side note, and just to, make sure that if there's any doubt of the sanity and the craziness that I display on a regular basis, when Star Wars came out, I saw it in Mesca color at the Newport
Mesca color.
Cinema. Mesca color.
Rainy.
It was
Rainy
the
walked
brand
through the
new.
room.
It was the brand new Newport Beach Cinema. It was one of the first ones with THX with the Dolby Surround.
Oh yeah,
It
yeah,
was
yeah.
huge. And me and I don't know 5 or 6 other buddies, we got in this van, and we had our bag of Meshuacan, which was really crappy weed for those of you who've never heard that term from back in the 70s.
So hence the term
Meshuacan.
Mesca color.
And no, that's not where that came from. So we had the
all right.
Meshuacan. We
I
had
thought you were
a
insinuating
case.
that you were stoned out of your mind. when you watched it.
So it was started with the Meshuacan, and then we had a case of Colt 45, and then somebody had brought chocolate mescaline.
Okay.
So we thought that putting the chocolate mescaline in the beer was going to be, a lot of fun. It was, but we
It
also
was.
rolled a joint.
we were
a couple of
right.
joints, and we took them into the theater. We sat way up front. I don't know, 10 rows. I don't know how many. There might have been 100 rows. We were like in the 10th row. So
You're
the
smoking
screen's
weed
like-
in the theater.
it blew us away because I don't know if you've seen Skinwalker Ranch, the last
Yes.
episode, but the yesterday on the most recent episode, they found a cave in a mesa and they dropped smoke bombs in it, and the
Oh.
smoke started coming out, and then all of a sudden it went back in and just disappeared. So they know that there's
Oh.
something going
See,
on
now
over there.
I have to just interject here. I've
Mhm.
only got up to season 2
Oh my
on
god.
all of my channels that I
Mm.
buy. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing season 3 yet.
Well,
So-
it's absolutely amazing, but the correlation, reference, and analogy, and not necessarily a metaphor, but could be thought of as that. We went into that theater with those joints, and we sat in that 10th row, and the air conditioning was so amazing that we'd take a hit, blow
Oh.
the cloud, and it would just disappear. So we sat
Nice.
there the whole time, and when that battle cruiser came over after this, we were just sitting there going, Mesca color. We got mescaline, we got weed, we got booze. This is awesome. It's never been as good. I think it came out in 76 or 77, so I was like 20.
77.
Yeah. you're
77.
right.
Yeah.
That's when I turned
I had
20.
I went to see the first Dune movie in the theaters. It had to come out in the 80s, was it? With Kyle MacLachlan and Patrick Stewart was in it as Gurney.
84ish?
And I can't 84ish. Well, I went
I
to the
think
theater
84-ish.
downtown Minneapolis by myself. I went down to see it, and
Because I think I was in
Um,
college when it came out.
there were some guys standing in line behind me that were stoners by everything they said. And he said, "Oh man, do you remember 2001? And the other guy's, yeah, man, I remember 2001. Fuck, that was a great movie. Oh, it was even better stoned. Oh yeah, dude, I was stoned all through that movie. Monolith time. Ah! And these guys were stoned in line, so they were very comical for a good 20 minutes while I stood in line next to them. And
Stoners
so,
are some
To
are
put
some
things
of
in
the
perspective, when Star Wars came out, weed was something I had to pull in the garden.
there you go. Yep.
I was in like the 6th grade or 7th grade. I wasn't into all that stuff yet.
Well,
Mhm.
I took my first it was my first smoking of and consumption of cannabis at age 13.
Huh.
And I have
And
been
hooked for life. It was
I've
a
been
gateway drug for Professor Bauer.
it was a gateway to food, fun, sex, parties, music, everything.
There it is.
And
And
apparently knowledge, because you became a professor. So
well, that is something that's been bestowed upon me by those that seem to think that that's
Why?
appropriate. So there you go.
Come here and tell us.
But you remember
Why?
the commercials about
Hold on.
your brains on drugs, and you have the eggs in the frying pan?
Yep.
Yep.
That was
hello,
you.
Rowan, dear.
I was the frying pan. So Rowan has a dilemma. What's going on?
Can't go in my room by myself
Why?
because this weird guy was DMing me on Instagram. So I deleted Instagram, and now Mom said I might get kidnapped. So I have to be careful.
There's truth to this.
Hmm.
Well, we still love you. Wherever
Right.
you end up.
You deleted Instagram?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Can you believe that?
What were you thinking?
Some guy wanted to kidnap her, he said. What did he say? How do you know he wanted to kidnap you?
Because he's being weird.
I see.
He was like, I know something about you from your ancestry. And like, that means he's going to kidnap me.
I see.
Hmm.
Well, maybe
Careful
you
what you
should.
post on Instagram and TikTok.
Yes. Maybe you should just stay on the 10-year-old sites that are
No.
out there.
That's like Snapchat. And
I
that's it.
see.
But that's only for texting.
I see.
You,
And
you
I
know what
already
I have
have-
found, Ron, is that people that do those kind of things, and they do them to me, and I'm an old guy. They've been doing them. They were doing
Yeah.
them to me
He
before
gets
all of
threats
this
of
stuff.
kidnapping all the time.
Yeah, I used to get the emails, and I had a pager, and I'd get something from somebody.
Don't
on
use
my
language about
pager,
text she knows nothing about.
right?
A
So,
what?
but
What's a
what I
pager?
realize is that those people that do those kind of things have something that we refer to as a personality disorder, where they need attention.
Yes.
And if they are using you to get attention and you respond and give them that attention, all you're doing is fueling that narcissistic kind of nasty ass kind of personality. So you should really
give
probably
them
be
the
happy
attention.
that you're not on there doing it. That's my advice.
I didn't even text
So
him.
let me
Like,
interpret what he
I
just
just
said
deleted
for
it.
you. You shouldn't be on Instagram,
Well,
Yes.
when you were
Yes.
sleeping one time,
like we've said.
well, when you were sleeping one time, I asked you if I could have Instagram, and you went, uh-huh.
And she interpreted that as an S, as a yes.
Oh,
Because
yeah. Well,
Mom said I had
Rowan,
to ask.
what have I told you? You only use that to ask for bicycles and phones and things like that.
That's right. Dad, can I have your credit
Don't
card?
waste that privilege of being able to catch your dad half asleep.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
That's right.
I don't have to ask him to use his credit card, though.
No, you don't.
I buy Robux anyways.
Yeah, I'm gonna eliminate that from your phone. Don't ask, folks. It's a game they play, and sometimes in one day I'll see it's not a lot of money, but it's like $1 here, 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 and I'm like, who just charged $13? And then you look closer and you see the name of the game in there, Roblox. Like, aha, I know who's doing this. All right, I'm going to send you on your way. I rather doubt there's a kidnapper in your bedroom. There might be ghosts, though, so be careful.
There is a
All
ghost.
right.
You want to know why? I was sitting on the couch and I was laying with my hand out like this, and mom's battery pack was just sitting there, like not even touching my hand. And it was just sitting there like this, and my hand was like this. And all of a sudden, I feel something touch my hand, and the battery pack was on my hand like this.
Nice. There you
I
go.
didn't even touch it.
There you go. All right.
So I need your phone. I don't
So-
want the camera.
All right. Bring it back.
Love you, Rowan. Sweet dreams.
She's just over on the sofa right here.
You would buy me my own house.
If you loved her, you would buy her own house. That's what every 10-year-old needs.
Yeah, remember that down the road.
Yeah. Put that firmly
You get
fixed in
upset to
my
have to
memory.
clean one room. Imagine if you had to clean all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you loved me, you would also buy me a cleaning lady.
I don't know if you caught that. If you loved her, you'd also buy her a cleaning lady. So there you go. She doesn't have high goals. She's going to be a man's dream catch someday.
I know how I'm gonna get married. Dad, I'm gonna tell him how I'm gonna get married.
All right.
Just like what I told you when we were in the Dairy Queen line. So one day I'm gonna be riding a motorcycle, right? And when there's a long red light, I'm gonna jump off it, find a cute guy in his car, knock on his car window, and ask
Get
him
shot.
if he's single, and then ask him if he wants to date me, because I saw this guy on TikTok who did that, and that's how he got married and had 2 kids.
Isn't that what happened to you, Professor Bauer?
Oh, it was almost verbatim. I mean, the only
Uncanny.
That is basically what happened to me, except exchange the motorcycle for a drench-a-wench tank. And there you go.
There you go. Drench a wench tank. Yeah, that works. So
those are
well, there
very
you go.
rare, Rowan.
Okay.
That is not something that's anywhere near normal.
It's not
So,
normal.
You got to be careful, but you'll
Gotta be
figure that
careful.
out.
She'll figure that one out
Everything about me is
eventually.
normal.
So, I don't know where we were. Doesn't matter.
We were talking about
So-
Star Wars and all that stuff,
Thank you.
and I
Oh yeah.
I have found the escape to fiction to be more appealing in the last year or two than it has been in a long time.
Nice.
Because when you look at the nonfiction, you can't believe the shit you're seeing, and you go, "Well, wait a minute, this is supposed to be the real stuff, and it's like crazy." So,
Yeah.
so one of the things that I found, and there's a long list of just trips and fumbles and stumbles and face plants and everything else. But did you hear today that they are recommending or going after some kind of prosecution for the border agents who were initially reported as whipping the migrants that were
Yes.
coming across?
Yeah,
right?
with their horse reins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you remember that?
And
then
they
it was-
found that that was not what happened.
and then they said, well, and that was after an investigation, right? So an
Mhm.
investigation into it said that that's not what happened. Well, today, apparently, Joe Blow and the fools up on the hill there have directed, what is it, the border and immigration, or immigration and whatever it's not the Department of Homeland Security, it's whoever the border guys are. They're recommending them to have disciplinary action.
For what?
They haven't said. They just, for the incident, but
What they're
have-
listing it as is some sort of administrative.
yes, discipline.
Yeah, but they were guilty of some sort of administrative. I can't think of the word they used, but it's
Yes.
like they screwed up the paperwork or something.
Yeah, and
Well,
And
we
I'm
better
look-
make examples of them.
I'm looking at this going, okay, first of all, the president and vice president and a bunch of other idiots, condemned it as soon as they saw the picture, right? Made a big deal about it. This is blah, 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 fucking blah. And then they did the investigation and found out that that's not what happened at all. And not a peep from the peeps that were peeping about this bullshit.
No
So
apology,
this was
no.
September of last year.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming up on a year later. It's basically been wiped from most people's memories that it even happened.
Yep.
Because there's been in it or flooded out and crowded out because of all the other bullshit these idiots do. But
Yeah.
here they are almost a year later, and it's like, now we're going to bring that out and we're going to go after these yo-yos. It's like, what part of reality have you guys stepped out of?
You know who's guilty of administrative malfeasance?
Everybody in White House? Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, it's
Pretty much.
unbelievable.
Is this? I'm sorry to use the rhetoric of the left that everything that they want to attack, the right has a war on women, and they have a war on gays. They have a war on. They have so many fronts that the right is fighting wars on. If you're not left, let's put it that way. Would you say that they are waging a war on America? It almost, and I don't mean that as lightly and flippantly as it sounds. Did they realize what they're doing? No. Or do they?
Oh, yes, they do. It's very determined and by design.
It's deliberate, yes. And it's not, they're trying to take down, they're trying to transform what we have traditionally thought of and think of as America by going after all of the institutional things. This is what we were talking about last night, whenever it was with Niall. And I was saying that there's a reason for this mental deterioration of common sense and reason. And it's been an infiltration of our institutions across the board, starting with academia and schooling. But it's in entertainment, it's in the media, it's in politics, it's in science. This whole global warming stuff. I mean, this is, I've said 25 or so years ago that I thought that religion in the next 50 years, so let's say mid 90s to about 2045, would be exposed as one of the greatest hoaxes ever perpetrated on mankind.
Yeah.
And I'm putting global warming stuff right up there with it, neck and neck.
Yes.
Because this is anybody who's done a modicum, a half hour of research could see that there's the biggest fundamental flaw in the entire narrative, aside from the facts that from a scientific and a solar system and the planetary functions, they've taken it over using the geopolitical machine. But the one fact that stands out and that can't be denied, of all in the last 25 plus years, all of the math, the machines, the models, and the men, all the prognostications and predictions they've made have never come true.
That's right.
Yeah.
Everything has failed. They have not made one prediction on on this global climate thing that has come to pass. And every time the IPCC comes out with their new AR reports, I think they're on 6 now. All of the models start getting smaller. All the predictions start getting smaller.
Yes.
All of the bandwidths of the potentialities, the over under.
Good night, Matthew Sainsbury. Sorry, I had to fit that in before you left.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's so, and what it's doing is it's not only driving the ideology, but the ideology is driving policy. This whole gas thing that we're in is another mind-boggling. Are you kidding me? Can you be that stupid when we have enough oil to not only meet our needs, but to export it? Under Trump, we became oil exporters. We're 20% of the world's output. The Saudis are at 12 or something. Russia's down around 8%. And then there's a bunch of other, mixes in there. We have enough oil to fuel our needs in this, in America for at least 100 years.
Yeah.
But everybody's pushing, this
250 years. Try 250.
Yeah. Exactly.
I had read that about 3 or 4 years ago. There is sitting under Wyoming and Montana right now about 250 years worth of domestic oil use at current rates.
Right. And just to throw another big ball in the pond there and create ripples, it's not fossil. It's abiotic.
That's correct. And it's not finite.
Abiotic.
And it's a natural part of the geologic processes of the way that our planet functions. It creates oil. So this whole thing, I mean, there's 2 lies going on here, and they're doing everything they can to push and change. Going back to your point, Scotty, your question is, are they trying to change America? Yes, but they're trying to do it at all these little parts and pieces that make up America and also influence and affect the rest of the world. And fortunately, while they may be noisy and irritating and frustrating and just shut the fuck up, it's a small amount of them. They just happen to be in those places where that 30-year period that I was talking about educated these idiots and then moved them through the political process into these positions, not only politics, but in the corporate side. And there's been this melding of bullshit of ideology and ideas that are directly targeted toward the fabric of the foundation of the traditions that made this country where everybody wants to fucking come. End of rant.
Yeah. So I don't know if you were here at the beginning of the show, but hold on, Dave. I don't know if you were here at the beginning of the show, Professor Bauer, but I relayed a conversation I had with a young woman that I know that is of that same kind of thinking. I didn't want to get into it again to rehash it, but what the upshot of everything she said, and somebody I know pretty well, was that, and Dave, you know her too. Somebody who said that she believes the Constitution needs to be done away with. It's nothing but garbage, is what it all funneled down to. And all based on all of her thinking like this. She would be upholding the opposite end of what you're thinking. So it's
in a nutshell, she's stupid.
Yeah, that's stupid. It's utter stupidity. And I did ask her politely to let me know what it was. She said that the Constitution was only made for rich white guys who were property owners. And I said, I got to differ with you on that. And I said, you take the Constitution and all the amendments as a whole. I said, can you give me just a quick, short bullet point list of where you find this? And what is it you find so heinous about the Constitution? You, being somebody who grew up here in this country and have lived your whole life privileged, I use that word deliberately, privileged as a benefactor of the Constitution. And she said, well, I'm not going to do that. We'll just agree to disagree, because she didn't want him to think through it, which meant she didn't know what she was talking about.
I have one regular response to people who say, like this woman you talked about that was saying the Constitution needs to be replaced, and the other group of people that go on about capitalism and how it's just a fiefdom and it's bullshit. And my response is, okay, compared to what?
Yeah.
Give me something else, a better Constitution. What would it look like? I'm open. Let me hear what you got to say. Because progress, as opposed to being progressive, is something that we all aspire to. We're all trying to progress in our lives and for our families and friends and communities and all of that. But if you're going to sit there and tell me that that whatever we're using now sucks, first question is kind of like, well, give me an example. And then it's compared to what? Give me something else that is better. Now, if you, as a 30-year-old liberal arts degreed colored hair person, is going to sit there and tell me that they've got some idea, I'm interested. I want to listen. But out of the starting gate, it's probably safe to say that it's not going to end up any place that's going to make any sense.
Nope, it's not. And it didn't to even start with. Guys, I'm going to start wrapping this up for tonight.
Sounds good to me. I got stuff to do. I thought I would pop in and try to leave a little stain or two, or maybe clean one.
Barely got me halfway home and you're leaving?
Yeah, we're leaving. I got stuff to do. So
now I know what Rainy feels like.
what feels like?
Ooh.
Now I know what Rainy feels like.
Yeah.
Barely halfway there and you're leaving.
Yeah, there it is. Are you done yet? So there it is. All right. So,
Have a
guys,
good one, everybody.
I'm going to let you go. Dave, you get to go first now because of that. Bye. All right. Professor Bauer, I will see you probably tomorrow. So you have a good
I'll
night.
be around.
All right, brother. All right, folks. It's just down to me. We're going to get out of here. I appreciate all you being here tonight, Susie Q. Don't see so much of you anymore. I almost forget that you're there now because you're back. And so good to have you here. Steve Clark, good to have seen you tonight. And Sean Stroik, of course. And Iowa X, as always. And everybody else who was here and who is still here and it may still be watching. If I'm not seeing you, it's because I'm not seeing you. All right, guys. You have a good night. And you know what? See you tomorrow night. So you live long and prosper. Good night.